A list of the topics, themes, and subject matter featured in this episode has been included in the episode description.
Hi, it's Kenny, your DM for Fables of Frost and Fur, and I am joined by my lovely cast, Matt,
Carmen, and Kaylee.
And we would like to thank you so much for giving us a listen. If you like what you hear, please like and subscribe wherever you can. Your support means a lot to us. Kaylee, you want to tell us about this episode?
Oh, so much fun. The party is on our way to Vanois, and we literally pick up a brief additional companion. Absolutely charming. I wish we could keep him forever. But some secrets are revealed that can't be unrevealed. And I'm sure we're going to pick up with that next week.
And indeed, we are going to pick it up. And without further ado, please enjoy the show. Previously on Fables of Frost and Fur, fearful of being captured by the Queen's men for Poppy's unique condition, Harlan and Vianne took shelter with a mutual acquaintance in the village of Metz. This acquaintance revealed himself to be a part of the Chaman Vert, an underground network that smuggles beastkin slaves away from major human cities, and offered to arrange similar safe passage to the major port city of Vanois. However, before they could depart, unfortunate circumstances led the party to believe that their secrecy may be compromised and that the Queen's men are dangerously close. As they hastily prepared to set foot on the road again, the unimaginable happened once more. Poppy transformed back into a human and blacked out. We take up our story again as we peer into the dreams of this unconscious young woman. The shallow, glowing, green-blue waters of the wondrous sea rise no higher than Poppy's calves. Having never been in a body of water larger than the little river that flows through her hometown of Ardeno, she is overwhelmed at the vastness of this sea. Everywhere she looks, she sees nothing but an endless horizon underneath a pitch black sky. She looks down to see her furry feet, claws poking out submerged in the waters, the fur that lines the outside of her legs soaked and wet. It starts as a single whisper, and it grows into 2, then 3, then 4, then too many to count. The whispers get louder and louder as the fur on the back of Poppy's neck raises. A single voice behind Poppy gets closer to her rabbit ears.
Poppy whips around to the voice behind her.
It should have been me.
Poppy awakens. She is being carried piggyback style, and she can smell the faint scent of smoke and a bit of sweat on her uncle's neck. As the sunlight of the early afternoon hurts her eyes, we see Harlan and Vianne walking down the road towards the village of Poitiers. As Poppy comes to, she hears, at first muffled, and then clearly, the low conversation between the two of them.
Have you thought about what you're going to say to her? When she sees that new face, she's going to want to go back home.
Right, and we know that. It's just not safe. Alright, Then will you be honest with her? This change doesn't change what happened.
If anything, it makes it worse.
Worse?
Harlan, the only other time that a human has spontaneously been afflicted with sanguis was 300 years ago in the Howling Night. But never in the history that we know of has it ever been reversed.
I don't know if you could just pretend this never happened, before you could just... I mean, who would believe it, right? Maybe everyone just kind of went crazy at the same time. And just thought they saw something. No, you're right. There's no way. It's too dangerous.
Forward.
Yeah. Forward.
As the three of you continue on, you eventually come to a lull in your conversation. Poppy, you're now fully awake.
Poppy will stay as quiet and still as she can to try and imitate a sleeping form. She's very interested in the conversation at hand.
Do I notice that she's woken up?
Give me a perception check. And Carmen, why don't you give me an opposing performance?
It's a 7. I don't have any modifiers.
I got an 11.
Harlan does notice a bit of stirring behind his back.
I think she's waking up.
Oh. Okay. Sit her down. Let's take a look over her gently now. Is she all right?
Hey there.
Ah,
How are you feeling?
why are you two? Why are you both looking at me like that?
Oh, there's no point hiding it. Arlen reaches into his sack. He pulls out a little mirror. Part of that kit that he used to make that fake mark. And he holds it up for her.
As Poppy's eyes land on her reflection in the mirror, she sees a face that she is familiar with and has grown up her entire life with. Her snout is now back to her cheekbones, her jawline, her nose. Her lips are back to normal. Her ears are now on the side of her head as opposed to on top of it. And she feels noticeably slower.
Even in her easy, sluggish form, she scrambles to grab the mirror and she pulls it close to her face and begins examining every feature, the fleck of her eyes, the makeup of her nose, her lips, looking to see if it really is the face that she has known all these years. And there's just a stunned silence to her as she examines her own features. I'm fixed, right, Uncle Harlan? I mean, it was just a crazy bad dream, right? We can tell Pa, we can show Pa that I'm normal again.
Oh, Bill. Well, the thing is, we don't know why. We don't know why you changed in the first place. And we don't know why you changed back. So we don't know. We don't know.
And more importantly, my dear, Leanne kneels in the grass and the dirt beside you, unashamed of whatever may soil her fine skirts. She holds your face in her gloved hands. She holds you close. You feel embraced in her gaze. The Queen will be sending her forces after you. They may already be in Ardenau. You can't go back.
But that's even more... That's a better reason to go back. What are they doing to everyone in Ardenau? Uncle Harlan,
Well, they're probably just asking them if they know where you went. Which they don't. And we should keep it that way.
You love your brother. Yes. You love your friends, your family. You must keep them safe. Do you understand?
But what if they're not safe right now? I can go back and show that none of this, it doesn't matter anymore. It's okay. If the Queen's forces are there, she'll see I'm normal. It was just a bad rumor. It'll all be fixed now.
I really wish we could do that. I so wish we could do that.
Harlan.
We can't risk it. I'm sorry.
The next village is Poitiers. And after that is Venois. We will take you as far south as we need to get to make you safe, puppy. Come.
You start making your way back down the road, and eventually you can start to make out the outskirts of the village of Poitiers. And it is a lovely little town that is covered in woodland dense forest. All three of you know that Poitiers is known for its logging industry. It's next to the Aubrac River, which it uses to great success to power its sawmills in order to produce lumber for the entirety of Grendel. And as you step closer and closer, you hear a curious sound.
Ha! Ha! Come on! Yeah, what you got? You're not so tough, are you? Come on!
Oh, no.
You can't really tell where it's coming from. But for some reason, it is quite loud. It's right next to you. I want the three of you to make competing perception checks, please.
That's a 13 for Vienne.
17?
14.
Harlan sees it first. Harlan, to your surprise, as a last sort of effort of seeing where this is coming from, you look down at your feet, and ahead of you is a tiny man. He's no taller than a thumb, and he's on the ground, and he is holding what looks to be a sewing needle, except with his size, it's about the size of a sword. And he is in deadly combat with what looks to be a spider.
What in the frosted hell is that?
When he tilts his head down in disbelief, the rest of you follow with your eyes. You legitimately see this tiny man who seems to be in a death match with a spider who is trying its darndest to eat him.
Poppy sinks to her knees and grabs her head and just says, "Oh my god, I've lost it. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm going insane, aren't I? Please tell me that you two see the small man fencing a spider."
I think we share the same hallucination, puppy. What is it?
As the three of you have this conversation in the open, the man actually acknowledges you. He turns his head and he's like, oh, don't worry. I got this. I'll be right with you. He does this move where he steps back and then he lowers his guard and he opens himself up. And the spider's tentative. And it sort of strafes right, it strafes left a little. And then it pounces. He, in his on-guard position, lifts his sword back up, straight arm, and he takes his back foot, steps backwards, keeping his front foot forward. He sort of bends his back and arches it like a dancer, arm outstretched as the spider falls straight onto his blade and he is left unharmed. He pulls the sewing needle out of the spider and says, "And that's what you get for messing with Thomas the Adventurer."
Oh.
Poppy just starts applauding.
Oh, why, thank you, mademoiselle. I appreciate it. Howdy, folks. How you doing?
It's a pleasure. Vienne's gonna try her normal courtesies of introduction and finds herself offering her hand to a creature that could fit within it. Not sure if you should take it for a kiss or if that's insulting.
He sheaths his sword, sort of pseudo-hugs the tip of your finger, and then he kisses it. Enchanté, madame. Pleasure to meet you.
Oh, the pleasure is ours, I am sure.
Sorry, did you say your name is Thomas?
That's right. My name is Thomas, the Adventurer.
The Adventurer.
Don't forget, Harlan.
Right, no. How could I?
He felled that mighty beast, of course.
Well, no, that was excellent technique. My goodness.
Why, thank you, monsieur. I appreciate it. I see the blade on your hip. I can tell that you are also one of fine training. To whom do I have the pleasure of meeting?
Harlan LeBron is, so sorry I'm being so rude. I've just never met anyone quite like you.
Charmin, I know. I get it all the time. And you, madame, your name was?
My name is Vian, and I must say, if you'll pardon the pun, you are quite growing on me.
Oh, completely understood, madame, and excellent pun, if I might add. And you, mademoiselle, your name was?
Yeah, my name is Bella. Bella.
Little squeeze on her shoulder again.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet you, Pabella. Pleasure to meet you. Now, I've got to ask, are you folks heading into Poitiers?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. I hate to be rude. We just met, but would you mind terribly if I hitched a ride with one of y'all?
But of course, we would be rude not to. Of course.
So rude. Right.
Of course.
One of our steps is so many of yours.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, a mile for me is about 30 yards for you. So, yeah, I would appreciate it. Thank you. I could fit in a pocket if you'd like, or I prefer riding on shoulders. I love the sightseeing, but it's entirely up to you. That's up to you.
How about the brim of your hat, Harlan?
And Vian will flick that wide, floppy brim of his.
Hey, watch it. I am so worried this is something terrible. He looks so polite, and he looks so well-mannered, and absolutely insane because he's the size of my thumb. I'm sorry, but why are you heading to Poitiers?
That's a great question. I'm heading to Poitiers because that is the site of my next great adventure. I heard they were having some trouble in the woods, some bandits, if you will, and I plan on solving that village's problems all by my lonesome. Of course, I would welcome any help from any good Samaritans passing by, but believe you me, I'm an experienced adventurer. I could handle it by myself if need be.
I'm so sorry. I don't mean to be rude, sir.
Please, Harlan, can we keep him?
I don't know if it seems like a whole person. I don't know if keeping is a thing.
While those two are talking, Poppy's just gonna scooch up to him on her knees, and she's gonna hold out her hands a step for him to get up.
Your step for him is actually somewhat waist height, so he does have to hoist himself up, and it's round and squishy because it's your hand. So he has to balance a little bit, but eventually he makes it to the center of your palm and it says, "Mighty obliged, mademoiselle." He tips his little hat. It's like a little cap, it's sort of like those newsboy caps. A bit of a wider brim up front, but it's very boyish. It's very childlike. You notice he's not wearing shoes, and his trousers are hand sewn. His shirt is also hand sewn, but despite their size, they are fitted. It's very nice travel clothes. He can move and stuff, but this is tailored to him.
Poppy will just stand and mechanically just move him to face Uncle Harlan and Vian. Well,
I have so many questions.
And we'll find out on the way. In the meantime, Monsieur Thomas, you have yourself a party to join. Ours.
I'm so happy. It's a pleasure, y'all. Let's get going, shall we?
We shall.
Right. Here we go. Welcome. Thomas.
The four of you, with good pace, walk along the road to the town of Poitiers. The sun out at its fullest, the wind gently blowing through the trees. As you enter the town's limits, you spot that the buildings here are quite nice. They are fairly well developed, made of a mixture of wood and stone, and created in sort of the modern style of the Queendom of Grendel. Unlike Ardenneau, which is very old homes built a long time ago. Some of them just built straight out of wood. Some of them, the planks aren't even straight. That's not the case here. The case here is there's wealth around, and it seems like it's consistent throughout the town of Poitiers. And in the center of the town, everyone notices this massive 4-story sort of building with a tower attached to it. Harlan would know this as the Chateau de Carusi. This is sort of the center building here. he would know because he's done business with some of the folks in this town, namely some of the folks who own this estate here at the chateau. It should be no surprise that the person who owns it is also the échevin as well.
Right. Is there anywhere we can take you, Monsieur Thomas?
Oh, no. I mean, I just figured I'd walk around until I heard of some rumblings. Try to find myself some trouble, you know?
Uh-huh.
A horse's hoof could feel as a rumbling to you. How do you navigate such a town on your own?
With great care and haste, madame.
Have you other people like yourself?
Other adventures? Oh, there's plenty of us. Oh, absolutely. You would not believe how frequently I run into another adventurer, someone who just wants to do good just like me.
It's a very noble cause.
Thank you. Oh, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's underappreciated in so many places, but you know what? It's a thankless job, and it's the only calling I have in my life. Well, apart from being a tailor, that is my calling in life.
So how long have you been adventuring, really?
Oh, for the better part of, I don't know, 3 months now.
3 months, and you do it exactly like you do right now?
That's right.
In this state?
Of course.
Right. Okay.
I mean, to be fair, I've been sick a few times, so I don't adventure in that state. It's not good for my health, obviously.
Right.
I wouldn't be at my best, and the people deserve better than that. They deserve me at my best. So when I'm sick, I do take some time off.
Absolutely. As Poppy's holding him, are people walking by noticing? Like, she's still trying to gauge if this is a figment of her imagination.
People are around. There are men and women walking about, going about their day. For Poppy, this is new. For Poppy, this is like, you've never been here. You've never been anywhere that's remotely as populated. Poppy thinks this is genuinely what they mean when they talk about cities, because it's massive to her. It's easily like 3 or 4 times the size of Ardeno. The buildings are massive. They're super nice. Anyone who's working seems to be sort of middle class. People have nice clothes that they do work in. It's kind of nice, not super ostentatious, but like not peasant clothing. People don't really take notice of you, to be honest, or anyone in this party, let alone the tiny man you're talking to.
I admire his spirit, truly. If you act like you belong, you will. And you do now, Thomas.
I appreciate that, madame. I try my best. And he once again tips his hat.
I am swooning. Who taught him to flirt? That is ridiculous.
I get it from my mama.
Do you want me to lower you, Thomas? I've never been in a place this big, so I don't really know. Is there an alleyway?
I mean, it depends where you're going. If you guys are going to head to the center of the town, I'd love to head there with you.
Uncle Harlan, Bien? I don't know where I'm going, so...
Oh, we were just gonna... we're just passing through, really.
Sure. I mean, if you're passing through, you got to pass through the center. I mean, the road goes right through. So why don't you feel free to drop me off once we're there?
We have to just pass through? I mean, this place is amazing. Can't we find like a little shop or something, get a little keychain for the way?
Harlan, we could save days of his journey if we walk him 2 blocks. Let's go to the center.
We can go to the center. We can drop the tiny man in the center.
The 4 of you make your way to the town square. And this town square, to Poppy, her eyes bulge. It's massive. It's easily like the size of Ardeno itself. There are stalls everywhere, and in the center is this massive stone statue surrounded by, looks to be like a stone dish, and you have no idea what it's for. As the 4 of you walk towards this structure, you can see a sort of crowd gathering around, and as you push your way to make your way through and you take a look, you see the iconic navy blue uniforms of the Frost Guard. There's about 24 of them. They're all gathered around a central figure. A lionkin man on his knees at the center of this crowd. His arms are bound, his feet are bound, and his face looks very much worse for wear. He looks up at one specific Frost Guard, one who has his gaze drilling into him from above. He scowls, he growls, and he says nothing. As the man that he's growling at And this frost guard, with a very boyish face, straightens up. Now, monsieur, we can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way. I know that you know exactly who ambushed my men on the road here. Where are your Pat Rouge friends? I will only ask this once. The Lionkin man scowls once again, and he actually spits onto the coat of this frost guard. How dare you! And the frost guard backhands this Lionkin and he falls over. His face hitting the ground, he turns to some of his men, namely one of the ones who also has these sort of decorated epaulets on him, nice bright blonde hair, bit older, and he turns to him and says, Sergeant, I believe this man, this mongrel, is in need of some persuasion. What do you say we tie him down and test to see if his tail works, Sergeant? The blonde man silently, stoically nods, and he turns to the rest of his men and sort of nods towards them. You see the shuffling of boots as they get out rope and bind his limbs together. They make sure that he's face down, and they all, 4 of them, one on each limb, spread out almost as if they're about to quarter him. As the first man, the boyish-faced man, turns to the crowd and says, Fear not, loyal citizens of the Queendom of Grendel. I am here to protect your town of Poitiers. My name is Sous-Lieutenant Boucher, and I have good word that there are a contingent, a cell of La Société de la Patte Rouge in the outskirts of your town. And at this, everyone gasps. Everyone starts whispering hurriedly to each other. Did you know? Are we safe? Are they going to attack us? Like they did not know all those years ago. You hear these whispers coming from all sides of you as you sort of look onwards. Poppy, you notice that uncharacteristically, Thomas, the little man, he's silent. And his face is quite serious as he listens to what Sous-Lieutenant Boucher has to say. Now, come, citizens, rest assured, my men and I shall keep you safe, but only if the entire town cooperates. Now, I know that you are afraid, but if you know anything or know anyone, namely any beastkin, slaves or not, who might know about this contingent of Patte Rouge on the outskirts of your town, I would like you to report to the Chateau de Caroussy, where I and some of my men shall be quartered. Until then, I bid you adieu. He turns to his men, and they, with all the ropes tied to this man, drag him across the pavement. He grunts a little, but he doesn't scream. He doesn't say a word. He just gets dragged the entire way through. And eventually the crowd, whispers and all, starts to disperse and go about their regular lives. And once they've cleared out a little bit, Thomas turns around and looks at the rest of you and says, wow, that's just unacceptable, isn't it? I can't believe that there are some ne'er-do-wells terrorizing this town. How dare they? We gotta go talk to Boucher. I mean, I'm sure he needs all the help he can get finding these Patte Rouge, right?
The Patte Rouge may not be what you are expecting to find.
I don't know. It seems like they're terrorizing these people. I mean, to be fair, I guess I haven't seen it, but he claims that they ambushed some of his men, so that's reason enough for me.
Thomas?
Yeah.
You ever kill anybody?
What, like a person?
Yeah, like a person.
Well, sure I have. And he says this very, very cheerfully.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah, plenty of times. You know, all sorts of people who are trying to do evil in the world. Like, Like people who are too forward with women and who don't know how to take no for an answer, or some beastkin who like to eat human flesh. Yeah, I've killed all sorts of people.
Oh, right. Very much not expecting that answer. Completely taken aback. Sorry, where was that? Where would you have done that? Did you killing a man for talking to a woman wrong?
Oh, gosh, I'm trying to remember. I think that was somewhere. It must have been around Wolfhold, I think.
Does he seem forthright and honest about this?
Anyone who wants to, why don't you go ahead and make an insight check for me?
Yes, please.
Mine's an 18.
Dirty 20.
Only a 14 for Vian.
All three of you look at this tiny man, and he is not lying. He fully means everything he says. He's very earnest, and maybe not altogether there, but he means every word he says.
Maybe not altogether there. Right. How are you laying low these miscreants?
Oh, can't give you all my techniques. As any good swordsman know, take a peek, steal a technique. Am I right?
Oh, okay, right. You are. And Harlan just kind of looks at the ad and Poppy, and then he goes, well, that is quite something, Thomas. But we'd be happy to drop you off. But we really do need to keep going.
Oh, I completely understand. Hey, listen, it was a big enough favor for you to carry me here anyways. I really appreciate it. Go ahead and set me on the ground right here, mademoiselle.
Poppy will lower him to the ground.
He hops off your hands. He turns around, takes off his cap, and he does a deep bow. And he puts his cap back on, straightens back up, straightens his cap, tries to adjust it just right, and he winks to the two women, and then he turns around and he just starts marching. And it's really awkward because he marches for like a while, and he's still like kind of right there. To him, he's walked like a good distance, but like if you spoke, he can hear you.
Well, I mean, we could have got him closer. Thomas, we could bring you closer.
If I'm not imposing, but if you got to get going, I completely understand. I'm not offended.
We're going through that way anyway, so we can just...
Right.
It would be more awkward for us to pass you by.
DM, do you think that this little tiny man weighs less than 10 pounds?
He absolutely weighs less than 10 pounds.
I would like to gift him the experience of flight, as he is invisibly plucked by a non-corporeal, non-visible mage hand.
Whoa! What's going on?
That rests beneath him like a magic carpet, and any direction that he points, it floats through the air.
Whoa, who's doing this? This is amazing!
A little gift for you, my little friend.
Oh, you're a magician! Oh, I should have guessed. You're so classy. I should have guessed you're a magician. Oh, this is amazing. Oh, I've never been up so high and be able to look down at the ground. It's making me a little nauseous, to be perfectly honest. I'm used to something underneath my feet. Woo! Oh, boy. Woo! The four of you kind of start to see the town square sort of get back to normal in front of you. So as you go past the road you came in front of you is the Chateau de Carusi. Through there, it has like a plaza inside of it. And through there, you can see like, okay, the road extends all the way to the other side and straight through this town. You see people start to, kind of get back to business. And honestly, they're sort of ignoring you. Seems like they get a fair amount of people throughout. Maybe they'll take one glance at you and then they just kind of get on with their business. No one seems like they're particularly bothered. It seems that this presence of Frostguard has really put these people at ease. And indeed, you can see out of the corners of your eyes, around intersections, at the ends of streets and such, you have Frostguard who are just sort of patrolling in pairs. That 24 that you kind of saw in the center, you now see that there's actually a lot more of them surrounding this town, and they're sort of patrolling around these streets.
Despite the fact that the ears are gone and she is nothing but a simple human, Poppy is going to flick up the hood of her cloak regardless and kind of fall into closer step to Uncle Harlan as they move.
Excuse me, Thomas. I think that's maybe just a little too conspicuous for us. He plucks Thomas out of the air.
Whoa!
And places him on his shoulder.
Watch the shirt.
I do apologize, but that maybe...
It's fine. Don't worry about it. It happens all the time as he tucks his shirt back in from where you plucked him.
Right. Is he okay, Monsieur Thomas?
Yeah, it's perfectly fine.
All right.
Do you require an introduction to Monsieur Boucher?
That's all right, madame. I can introduce myself.
Harlan just shoots Vienna a look. Right, well, that's, pleasure meeting you. Just set him down on his way to the chateau.
We should not be here, Harlan.
We should be anywhere but here. Yes, that is correct.
Anywhere but here.
Let's go. Right now.
As you walk past, from behind you, you hear a voice that's louder than it should be. Bonjour, monsieur. A pleasure to make your acquaintance. My name is... As it sort of peters out into the distance, you walk through what is a very ostentatious plaza to this chateau. It's very interesting. You actually notice there are a bunch of people walking in and out of here, and they seem to have like bags and luggage with them. And as you take a closer look, you can see that the ground floor of the chateau, it seems to be now a bed and breakfast. You can see there are wait staff who are serving people through these windows of this building that very much clearly used to actually be a home. And you see it catering to what you can only describe as like anywhere between sort of middle-class, semi-successful trader or tradesman and like the nouveau riche, the people who clearly are dressed very finely. Get the feeling they're like gentilhommes, right? Somewhat nobility, but they don't have that much money and seem to be enjoying time out in the countryside. As you walk through the chateau and you reach the other side, you start walking towards the other end of town. This road leading through seems to be sort of a main street for this town. And you walk past things that are familiar to you. Bakers and cobblers and blacksmiths. All of these sort of tradesmen who have set up these shop fronts outside. And as you walk towards the end, where the border of the town would be, you see a line of about 15 or so Frostguard. And as you approach, one of them lifts up their head, very nondescript. He has his hat on. He looks kind of like the rest. And he holds up his hand, his other still on the strap of the rifle that's slung around his shoulder and says, pardon, monsieur, madame, I'm afraid that you cannot go this way.
Oh, my mistake.
And why not?
Well, madame, as I'm sure you heard, the roads are not safe between here and Vanois. There is a contingent, a sort of cell of the Société de la Patte Rouge, and they have attacked our company already. So until we find and exterminate them, I'm afraid any foot traffic through this way to Vanois is closed.
Damn. Is there any way around?
You look around, and it seems like there is a Frostguard stationed approximately every 50 or so yards, and they are keeping an eye out on both the forest as well as the surrounding space between each Frostguard. You can see that they really have this place sort of quartered off.
We're just kind of in a rush.
I understand, monsieur, but please, this is for your own safety, as well as that of our men. We are forming, I should say, Sous-Lieutenant Boucher is forming a plan as we speak, a task force to go into the woods and root out these terrorists. I know it's inconvenient for you all, but rest assured, this problem will be solved as quickly as possible.
And of course we thank you for your service, gallant gentlemen. I hope that there are many young women who throw flowers beneath your feet when you return home. We should go.
Thank you, madame. You are too kind. He blushes and he sort of bows. And he takes a few steps back, starts chatting with squadron mates again.
Vienna's going to take the other two members of our party by their elbows and rush them into an alleyway, somewhere off the beaten path to talk somewhat privately.
Poppy, you did well to draw your hood, but we don't know if you're going to look as you are forever. We need to leave.
We need to go right now.
I understand, but how are we going to do that?
Well, we're going back.
Well, the nice young guard told us himself that they are sending a contingent of Frostguard soldiers into the forest. They are leaving. We should go with them. Come. Monsieur Thomas has already introduced himself to Monsieur Boucher. I'm sure that he will be obliged to make the introductions on our behalf.
Right? Yeah.
Sorry, are you suggesting that we join up on this little hunting party?
That's the only way to get out of town that I see of.
What if it happens again while we've joined their group?
We solve one problem at a time.
Oh, right. Yeah, okay. DM, this may be a dumb question. Would a city this large have a huntsman guild?
Yes, it would. You have heard your father talk about it. I want you to roll history for me to see if you remember the name.
Oh my god, it's a natural 18. Plus 3. It's a 21.
So on a 21, you do in fact remember your father speaking very highly of the Huntsman Guild here. Their Huntsman Guild name is Pharaoh Securus.
Uncle Harlan, maybe we can leverage our knowledge of the Pharaoh Securus and see if there's a way to get out through them. I mean, I don't know much.
It's not a bad idea, except the fewer people who know what we're trying to do, the better. We don't want to leave a trail.
I understand, yeah. The guards are a little scary, you know?
Yeah, I know. It seems like a way of getting word back to your pa that we've been through this way. And we don't want that. So here's our options, I figure. We go with Mademoiselle Vianne, and we try to join this hunting party. Or we try to sneak past them. Of course, getting caught's gonna bring up all kinds of suspicion and questions that we don't want.
You should only be caught doing one illegal thing at a time.
That from experience?
Quite a bit of it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I figure.
My darling, I wish that we could go with the Huntsman Guild, but I'm afraid that your uncle is right. People who know you, who would love you, who would cherish you, would be a bit too close to hold right now. But it's not all lost.
Yeah, you're right. No, I think I was just defaulting to what was familiar. But yeah, the guard, I think we should do. I don't think we should try to sneak past them.
Pippa, any other situation, your instinct was spot on. It's just, this is not normal. But no, it's good thinking. It was good thinking.
All right. Well, I will be excited to see Thomas again. So maybe if we go now, we can catch him before he's headed off.
I don't think it would take us long to catch him.
What is he, by the way? Do those exist outside of Ordino? Sorry, that sounded really bad.
I've traveled quite a bit in the world, and I have never met anyone quite like him. No.
I have no idea what in the frosty hells he is.
The three of you make your way back to the chateau. It is getting a tad bit later into the afternoon. And at this point in day, you can see that the crowds have cleared up a little bit and the streets are just a little more empty. As you walk back into the plaza of the chateau, you actually do see Boucher as well as the blonde man. And they seem to be talking to a table.
Of course. Well, shall we introduce ourselves as assets in their cause? A soldier, a magician, a hunter.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm not gonna go first, though.
No, Bella, you should not.
Bella in front of Thomas.
Bella? Yeah, it's a family name, right?
It's a family name.
The three of you approach the two men. And as you get closer, you can see on the table is a bright, tiny young lad who has his hands on his hips, big smile on his face. And as you approach, you catch wind of the latter part of the conversation. Now, I rest assured, messieurs, that I can very well take care of myself if I would just have your blessing to leave the town. I can hunt down these Pat Rouge for you. I can keep this town safe. And you know what's the best part? You don't have to lift a finger. You can take all the credit. That's fine. None of your men will get hurt, and I'll take care of it for you. Monsieur Thomas, was it? And he turns his head to look at the blonde man. The blonde man sort of like nods. I'm not sure you are aware of your, how shall we say, condition. And I don't think your condition would be conducive to you taking care of a contingent of, as far as I know, at least 30 Pat Rouge. Oh, my condition, don't worry about it. I'm feeling a bit under the weather, but for the most part, I'm peachy. I'm as right as rain. I don't... He turns and looks at the blonde man. Should we just tell him? Is it rude? Should we just tell him? He catches his eye to the three of you approaching and says, bonsoir. Well, I suppose it's not quite dark enough yet, but, bonsoir, madame. May I help you?
Thomas, there you are. We were hoping that we might have found you before you left.
He sort of looks between the three of you and says, you are acquainted.
But of course, what is an adventurer without his companions?
When he said companions, he meant normal, regular, understood. Forgive me, Monsieur Thomas, I misunderstood you. That was my mistake. Are these your adventuring companions? Why, yes, they are. And he looks at you and he just like winks. Yes, they are. And again, if you would have us, y'all can just sit back here and we will enter the forest and we will make sure that whatever danger is in there is gone. By morning, it'll all be settled. What do you say? He sort of opens his hands towards Boucher and Boucher just goes, I cannot in good conscience. And he turns around and says, Sergeant, should I let them do this? The blonde man turns to the rest of you and he says, what are your occupations?
It's a pleasure to meet you, Sergeant. My name is Vian. I am a magician. We've traveled with Thomas. He has felled many mighty beasts before.
He extends his hand cautiously, eyeing almost through you, Vian. And he takes your hand and he shakes it and he says, Sergeant Baton. Pleasure, madame. And you, monsieur, you, mademoiselle, what are your occupations? Are they also adventurers?
Harlan just pats the hilt of his sword.
He nods, doesn't say anything, and he looks at Poppy.
Yeah, adventurer sums that up. Mm-hmm.
He looks at your bow and says, a bow? Aren't those outdated?
Well, I mean, can't all afford the newest and best, you know?
You should see her with it. It makes much less noise than one of your fancy rifles. And when you are trying to do a discreet operation, none are finer than the four of us. Isn't that right, Thomas?
That's right. That's right. And I can personally vouch for them upon the honor of my name. As he says this, you notice that most of this courtyard has cleared off. A woman walks out from the ground floor of this chateau and approaches you. She is dressed in beautiful black silk. You recognize the cut of this dress as a mourning dress, something that people mourn in. You notice distinctly that the neckline is, it's quite a plunging neckline, a bit uncharacteristic for a dress of this style. She has nice dark hair and piercing blue eyes, pale skin as white as porcelain, like she's never stepped a foot outside and seen the sun. She walks over to you and says, well, Sous-Lieutenant, I believe that your fears would be alleviated should they accomplish or succeed at a contest. Would you not agree? The words coming out of her mouth are just absolutely silky smooth as she approaches, and she extends out a hand to Harlan first. Now that it's dark, she says, Bonsoir, monsieur. May I introduce myself? I am the échevin of Poitiers. I am Elodie Carusi. A pleasure.
Harlan just nods. He does not actually say anything, but he takes her hand. kisses it, and just nods.
She turns over to look at Vianne and she says, "A pleasure." And she goes in, and you notice the way that she grabs you and kisses each of your cheeks is entirely Savonan. Like, it is not Grendelian at all. It is from Savona.
Buonasera, signora.
I see. I apologize. I am unfortunately not your fellow countryman by blood, simply by marriage.
I regret that the Signore Carusi. Your dress, madame.
Yes, thank you. Rocco was very near to me. As she says this, I want all three of you to give me an insight check, please.
Oh, nothing from me. That's like a 5.
I'm devastated. I also got a 5. I've never wanted a woman's secrets more.
That is a 10.
As she says this, you see that there is this sort of air about her, that this is a very practiced thing that she's had to say. Almost like doublespeak. It's almost very political that she's had to phrase it this exact way to more than one person. She turns and looks at you and says, "And you, mademoiselle, would you not lift your hood for me?"
At that, Poppy would, in fact, draw the hood down.
"Gorgeous hair, my dear. You really must show it more often." Cat's got your tongue, dear. Charming. Now, Sir Lieutenant, I believe you should test these fine folk. And if they pass your test, I believe they should be allowed to assist in the defense of the Queen's great nation. Do you not agree? And you see Boucher, his eyes are just fixed on this woman, like 2 giant coins of gold. And he's just like, yes, madame. Of course. You're so clever. Of course. Why wouldn't I think of that? No, we, how about this? You there with the bow. Why don't you see if you can, and he looks over at one of the Frostguard and says, "Jean, would you take off your hat and place it on the ground there? No, actually, would you place it on the table right in front of you?" And the guy he just points to himself, like silently asking me. Yes, now, do it now. He just sort of like rolls his eye, he shakes his head, and he takes off his cap and he puts it on the table. This table is about the span of the courtyard, approximately 50 feet. Turns to you and says, "I shall test the youngest of you, and that should be you, mademoiselle. And if you should accomplish this, I would happily give you my permission to go on, I don't know what to call it, mercenary work, and see if you could persuade any ne'er-do-wells in the forest from leaving. So, that my challenge to you, using your bow, if you can hit that target from all this distance away, I believe you."
Poppy withdraws the bow and knocks an arrow without saying so much as a word, and peeks at the target once, but maintains eye contact with him as she shoots.
Give me an attack roll, Carmen! Give me an attack roll!
It was a natural 19, plus 6.
Poppy is right-handed, correct?
Mm-hmm.
The way that he's pointing to the target, you actually have to turn your back to him as you knock this arrow. And as you do, you take a look at the target, and then you actually turn your head all the way across the opposite shoulder, and you stare at him deadpan in the face as you let loose your arrow. It flies through the air, and it's like time itself slows down as the arrow wobbles through the air. Thomas has his tiny mouth open, agape, like he's just watching this fly through. The arrow flies through, and it hits not only the hat, but it nails the insignia, the little brass insignia of the Queendom of Grendel, hits it right on the space where there's a tiny little crevice between the patterning so that it doesn't actually damage the crest. It just goes right through the hat. And at this, Thomas goes, "Woo! Okay, girl, okay." Everyone starts clapping, including Elodie. She's just sort of politely does this very genteel golf clap. as both of the military men's jaws drop and they look at each other, like they just sort of shrug at each other and say, all right, that was incredibly impressive. I am so sorry, mademoiselle. I take back everything I said. You absolutely have our full permission to go out into the forests and pursue this mercenary work. The Queendom of Grendel would greatly appreciate it, and make no mistake, you would be generously compensated for this. Generously compensated.
Thank you. And she will put the bow back on her back and just kind of shuffle behind Uncle Harlan, fearing that she's drawn now way too much attention.
Okay. All right.
That's our Pabella.
Boucher leads you towards the way that you just came. As he approaches, the soldiers at this exit to the town, they come to attention and they salute in the general way, which is they take their right hand, they form a fist, and in doing so, they place it over their hearts and they sort of bring it across from their left to their right. It's almost like crossing yourself. As they stand aside, and Boucher slows down and he turns to the four of you because you have taken Thomas with you. He sort of points to the four of you there and he says, all right, so here's what you need to know. When my men were ambushed, the survivors came back and estimated that there were at least 30 Pat Rouge terrorists somewhere in the woods around here. Now, I don't know if that's true or an exaggeration, but I do know that the convoy that was attacked had 7 men with it, and only 2 of them came back. So, there's definitely more than a few. Best of luck, and please don't take any unnecessary risk. If you just find out where they are camped or located, that would be just as fine. If you return to us and tell us exactly where they are, that would be perfectly acceptable. We will formulate a battle plan to exterminate them with the full force of the 2nd Company of the Grendelian army.
Is there any way we could talk to one of your men? One of those 2?
I am afraid that they are infirmed. They were severely injured, you understand.
What about the lionkin that we saw tied up earlier?
Oh, him? Oh, no. He's one of them. I know it for sure.
You don't think there's any more information to be gained from him?
I mean, he hasn't spoken so far, but truth be told, if you are implying to apply your feminine charms to him, I would not be opposed.
Yeah, feminine charms. Yeah, that...
Monsieur, we can get very far with our feminine charms, but I will remind you that magicians also have other tools available to them. We don't need them to talk, necessarily.
Oh, his face lights up. Yes, forgive me. I had not known the extent of your abilities. Would you like to see him?
Yes, please.
You know where the East Gate is, so whenever you're ready, you can come back here. Come with me. And he leads the 4 of you back to the chateau, and then past it a little bit to a building that looks a little older than the rest of the buildings around it. You sort of recognize this as sort of like an older style of building. It's completely made of stone. And as you walk in through the front wooden double doors, you see that whatever this used to be has been modified into a makeshift jail. Cells with iron bars lined up throughout. He leads you over to the far end of where you came from, and he sort of gestures. And inside of this cell, you see the lionkin man that you saw before. This time, he is unbound, and he is sitting sort of in a fetal position, facing away from the bars. Well, of course, I cannot allow you to go in and speak with him behind the bars, but you should be perfectly safe here. You know these mongrels, they have sharp claws, so maybe keep a arm's length away to make sure you don't get scratched. But rest assured, my men will be right here. Please, go ahead and do what it is magicians do. Yes, good luck. He sort of starts to walk away. I have other duties I must attend to. Best of luck. And he takes off his hat, tips it, and says, adieu. And he goes ahead and leaves. The 4 of you are left at this far end. You can see a frost guard is sort of posted at the entrance of the hallway that you came in. If you whispered, he can't really tell what you would be saying. He's just sort of spacing off.
Such a model officer. All right, Mademoiselle Vian. This is your show.
Vian's going to take a moment to address Poppy in hushed tones, but loud enough that those in their immediate company can still hear. It was very sensitive of you to come back and speak to this one before we left town. I want to ask first, before I speak to him, why? If Vian senses hesitancy in Poppy as she asks this intense question, why did you choose to come back to speak to this bound prisoner when we were on our way to freedom? Why? Vian would reach out inquisitively towards Poppy and ask, do you want to speak privately?
Yeah, I think I would.
Oh, okay, message received, I understand. He raises his hand, and then he taps Harlan on the shoulder, because he's been riding on his shoulder, and he says, Monsieur Harlan, that hallway is mighty long. Would you mind, would you mind?
Mm-hmm. Wordlessly walks by and sets Thomas down.
As you walk back to join the two women. Hello there, Monsieur Frostguard. You come here often? And you finally have a moment to yourselves and to this lionkin who has not acknowledged your presence.
You asked why, Vian, and I think there's a number of reasons, but the most pressing are because when I look at him, I see Lucas, and more than that, I see myself. And I guess I wanted you two to know that if this, and she gestures to him, her hand shaking as she does, if this ever happens to me, if this is the outcome, after all of this, I don't want that. And I would rather one of you finish me off.
All right, that's enough of that. Nope, that's enough of that.
I mean it, Uncle Harlan. You two would be far kinder than any Frostguard would be.
Poppy, you listen to me. I too was once faced with a similar choice. I begged for anything. Anything else, and I would have accepted death had it been granted. But instead, the choice I made led to the deaths of my father and my mother. If you held the knife to your throat, how many others would you take that choice from? Poppy, you are more important than your own life now. You could bring hope to all beastkin. I beg you, do not take it.
I didn't ask for any of this.
All right. We're here to talk to this fella right here.
Poppy will once again get on her knees in front of the bars, and she will take the flask from the belt that's situated on her waist and uncap it and bang it just slightly against the metal bar and try to get his attention and offer it into the cell.
Piss off!
Yeah, I thought you might say that.
Monsieur, what is your name?
Piss off.
Very good, Mr. Peace off. We've come back to you when we could have gone the other way. We offer you a moment of peace and of comfort. When we find your kin out there in the woods, what would you have us tell them on your behalf?
At this, the lionkin, his ears perk up. And he turns his head to look behind his shoulder and says, when they find you, they will take everything you have and leave you to rot. I have nothing to say to you, human. He turns his head back and is silent once more.
Poppy and Harlan see a sudden intensity in Vianne's eyes as she gazes towards him, but they don't hear anything. But there is a voice, Vianne's voice, echoing deeply inside this lionkin's mind, between his ears alone. He hears her whisper. And what would you say to Legant?
He immediately bolts up and spins around on all fours. Poppy and Harlan, this takes you by surprise. And on all fours, he just rushes to the bars. He slams into them and grabs them and faces Vianne, and he growls, what would a human know about Legant?
Careful, or I might have to tell Gambetta that one of his pups has been disobedient.
Lies. Lies. You're nobody. You're just a stupid human.
I think we're done here. He doesn't want anything from us.
Haley, I want you to make an intimidation check for me.
With pleasure. Oh, that is the dirtiest, the stankiest of 20s.
As Vianne turns her back and signals the other two to do so, you hear a shaking of iron bars. Wait, don't go.
He's changed his mind. What, are you now interested in the kindness that this girl would have shown you?
He doesn't stop scowling, but he does look intensely at Vianne. What do you want?
What I want from you? Vianne looks at this beaten and bruised lionkin with something like pity in her eyes, diminishing him, making him even smaller before her as she towers over him.
He wilts at your gaze.
What we want, of course, is safe passage from here to Venlois.
You have it. Just get me out of here. Get me out of here, and you can tell Legant whatever you want, but just get me out of here, please. Do you know what they've been doing to me for hours? They've been cutting off my tail and watching it regrow, the bastards.
I'm sorry. This truly does wound Vianne. Our allegiance, then, is for you to make introductions between us and the 20, 30 or so patrouche. Vianne looks between Poppy and Harlan. She glances down the hall towards their tiny little addition. How many patrouilles are there in the woods, would you think? Be honest. 20, 30?
There are 42. Well, 41 now that I'm in here.
Ah, yes. So we will need a little bit of a warm introduction then, won't we? If we are to make it safely.
You have it.
Yes.
I will make sure that Anais does not touch a hair on your head.
Oh, you're with Anais.
How? He looks at you. Kaylee, what kind of expression does Vianne give when she says that?
Feigned surprise.
Give me a deception check.
Oh, yes, please.
The DM asks for all that is good. That is a 12. Oh.
He squints at you a little bit, and he says, yes, I am with Anais and her contingent. If you get me out of here, we will run to the woods, and we will grant safe passage through, yes?
Yes. Last I spoke with her, it was not on, shall we say, friendly terms.
Kaylee, is Vianne telling the truth?
Absolutely not.
He looks at Vianne and says, yes, you have it. Just please get me out of here.
We are agreed. Poppy? Harlan? We are taking this one with us.
Sorry, what?
That's gonna be a little difficult.
Look, we can get past the frost guard. We can. But we cannot get past Las Siete's finest. Not while you are looking as you are, my dear. Beautiful as you may be right now.
How are we gonna get him out of... I mean, how can we get past the frost guard? That was our whole issue to begin with, was we didn't think we could get past the frost guard.
Well, they're letting us walk right out. Right?
Yes, they are. It will have to be a diversion, but Thomas is skilled at entertaining a crowd, and we have permission. We'll have to get lucky, but we cannot get lucky past 42 of the Patch Rouge.
Pray to the walled grave. What are we gonna do with Thomas when we get out?
I presume he'll be fine.
We set him down. It's a day's walk in any direction.
He's made it this far. Okay, one step at a time.
All right.
First, we get him out.
Her head whips in the direction down the hall. Hey, Thomas, you think you could come here for a sec?
Thomas breaks from his very engaging conversation with this random guard, sprints his way back towards you, and it's very heroic because you can kind of spot the tiny little figure of him sprinting as fast as he can. And then after what seems to be way too long, finally gets to you, and he's looking up at you, and he's panting like, huh, that's father-in-law looks. What can I do for you?
Thomas, yeah, so I think we've come up with a little bit of a plan to deal with...
I love plans.
Right, yep, and this one's a good one. So we've convinced our newest friend here to lead us to the Patch Rouge so we can infiltrate their system here.
That's brilliant.
Right.
Oh, that's such a smart plan.
2 steps ahead, Thomas, that's what I say. But in fact, we need him out. And you're the perfect size.
Oh, say no more. I got it. Don't worry about it.
I love that. Yeah. She's gonna give her hand to him to step on so she can raise him to the lock.
Oh, no. That's not necessary. Don't worry about it.
Oh, all right.
I can do this from any height. And he turns to the cell. The moment he does so, the lionkin looks down and says, "What the fuck is that?" And completely ignoring this, Thomas just looks up and he points his finger at the lock. And he says, "Skadoosh." And he casts knock. The lock unlocks itself. And the door starts to just swing just slightly open. He turns over and he looks at the guard, and the guard is literally just facing the opposite direction, leaning on his rifle on the ground. "Oh, don't worry. I've committed crimes before. I got this next part." Points his other finger at the lionkin and says, "This is going to tickle a little bit." Sploosh. And he casts invisibility. In an instant, this lionkin shimmers a little bit, and then he fades, clothes and all, into the background, and he says, I have no idea what's going on, but I can't see my hands."
Thomas, you're brilliant.
You can't see the lionkin, but you just hope and you assume he's behind you, and you just sort of like walk your way out after closing the door to the cell back, and just walking past the guard and wordlessly just kind of like nod. He just like nods back and he just like doesn't care. The 5 of you make your way with the invisible lionkin to the eastern road that leads out. The frost guard there all salute you because they recognize you, and then they all just turn aside and they let you pass. And you pass entirely without incident.
Oh.
You make your way through. About sunset now. There's still a bit of light out, but it's starting to get a little dark. And you make your way through the woods, and you see that these woods are part of the woods that the community of Poitiers uses to produce lumber. You see there are markings around of trees that have been marked to like spare from getting cut down and the like. And you see ribbons tied to trees and stuff. And you see ribbons tying multiple trees together and stuff, just sort of indicating the work that needs to be done the next day. You walk your way through and you hear the sound of water as you find yourselves walking now alongside the Aubrac River as you make your way past. And as you do, invisibility spell wears off, and the Lionkin now sort of walks a little faster and walks past the rest of you, and he seems to be sort of trying to lead you, his tail swishing back furiously. I want the 4, actually, of you. I will make a roll for Thomas. I want you guys to make a perception check.
I believe in Thomas. Come on, buddy. Don't let us down. I only got a 5.
You rolled a 2.
12.
All right, that is a 21.
With a 21, as you make your way further and further into the woods, Harlan notices it first. But you are being watched, and you are being tailed. And you are being tailed by more than one creature. As you make your way to this bridge that looks like it has been recently just sort of absolutely demolished with like hammers and axes, this wooden bridge that one would use to cross the Aubrac River at this point, you hear the sharp sound of a whistle. And then another. And then another. And then finally, from the Lionkin in front of you, a whistle back from him. Emerging from the trees, you see dozens of beastkin of all sorts of varieties. Harekins, lionkin, wolfkin, bearkin, all sorts, as they slowly approach and surround you from all sides. You see that across the bridge are 2 beastkin in particular. One, a lionkin woman who has very light brown hair, tan skin, and very, very bright golden eyes, as well as next to her, a massive, hulking specimen of a bearkin. Even for his own kind, he is massive, 7'5", absolutely made of muscle. And he has this very, very dark brown hair, facial hair covering the rest of his face, as he has a very, very, very stoic look about him. The lionkin woman, with her cat-like ears and her tail swishing back and forth, approaches the edge of the broken bridge and looks at the rest of you. Well, well, well. Look what the cat dragged back. You know, Jacques, I was not expecting to see you again, and I have to know, how on Fracti did you escape from the Frost God? The lionkin who's with you takes a look at Vianne, and he takes a look back. I was helped by these lot. They wanted safe passage through to Vanois, and I promised it to them. The lionkin woman and the bearkin man both leap 10 feet across this broken bridge and walk up to him. And the man doesn't say anything, but the lionkin approaches him. Oh, you stupid boy. And she takes out a dagger, and faster than any of you can see, she slits his throat.
No.
And he falls onto his knees, blood dripping down his shirt. And he collapses and stops moving. With her knife still bloody, he walks very slowly towards the rest of you. At this moment, I have to ask, who is carrying Thomas?
He's held aloft by the mage hand right now.
He tries his best to turn back at you. He just sort of like tries to whisper,
Put me down right now.
It gently descends, and he almost disappears in the dark grass.
The lionkin woman approaches you, looks at the 3 of you and says, don't make me guess. Which one of you is the leader?
You should see this one with a sword.
I'm sure. Monsieur, I am honored to make your acquaintance. My name is Anaïs, and to what do I and La Société de la Pâte Rouge owe the pleasure of speaking with a lowly human?
We're just passing through.
Passing through! I'm sure.
Like the boy said, we're just trying to get to Van Wall.
She turns to look at the rest of the beastkin surrounding you, and she says, they're just passing through! Yes! And I'm the Snow Queen's cousin! Yes. That's very nice. Why don't we cut the bullshit? Who are you? And what are you doing in my woods?
Vian glances back towards Poppy, does not look at Harlan, and takes one step to shoulder up to this woman. Anais, I've heard so much about you.
And what have you heard, human dearie?
When you speak to me, you address Legant, and Vian dispels the illusion. On the top of her head, twitching with tension and fury, are two bright red fox ears. You can see beneath her gloves, the fingernails at the edge of her hands have become claws, and there is something animal in her expression as she stares down this lionkin, this foxkin woman, trying to intimidate her way through a den of predator animals.
Absolutely. I want you to give me an intimidation check with advantage, and if you'd like, with the words you just said, you can add a casting of guidance if you wish. The DC for this, normally, something like this is going to be an 18.
There is a moment as Vian's tail is swishing beneath her dress. You can feel them growling at one another in the depths of their throats. Vian blinks, and that is a 22.
Yes!
Yes! Oh my god.
Vian's fox eyes slitted stare down this lionkin who is ever so slightly shorter than her. Anaïs's tail swishing furiously from out of her trousers, and she takes a step back. And then another. And then she bows, and she says, "My apologies, Madame Legant. I was not aware that you traveled in disguise. Please forgive me." Every other beastkin bows to Vian. We would be very, very happy to guide you through the forest to your intended destination, which I assume is Vanois.
Wouldn't you like that? You will speak of us never again.
Of course.
You've never seen us.
Of course. We've never seen you.
Harlan, should we make sure that she doesn't speak of it?
At this, I want Harlan to make a perception check for me.
20, dirty 20.
Harlan, you can see that this lionkin woman is about to piss herself. You have very rarely seen someone this scared, and the only time you've seen someone this scared in your life is when on a battlefield or in a conflict or in a shootout, they know they're gonna die.
Harlan plays with the hilt of his sword. It's up to you.
I think perhaps our message has been received. Although, out of the unkindness that you showed to our dear friend Jacques. It seems as though maybe you didn't quite get the message. And Vian would like to cast Eldritch Blast at Anais. That's a 19.
Roll damage for me.
It's a 4.
As the words of the spell leave Vian's lips,
Shindo.
the two of you see nothing as a sort of warp in the air pushes its way instantaneously between the two women. And in an instant, the left shoulder of Anais dislocate with a sickening pop. And she screams out and she clutches it. The bearkin man runs over to grab her and she collapses to the ground. Please forgive me. Please. I will pay tribute to Legant. Take it. And she reaches into her belt and she grabs a pouch and she throws it with her good arm and it clinks onto the ground.
Vian scoops up the coin purse with an invisible mage hand, somewhat casually, with a wink, and then says, "The hospitality of your forest is somewhat lacking. I suggest that you retreat back to Wolfhold. The Frost Guard are going to make mincemeat of you."
She scowls, and then she looks at her bearkin companion, and she turns back and says, "Please, Madame Legant, this is all we have. We cannot go back there."
And why ever not? Oh, is there trouble between the ranks?
Have you not heard?
Tell me everything.
The Frost Guard have mobilized en masse onto Wolfhold. They search for a hairkin, and they are searching underneath every stone. No place is safe.
Poppy stumbles back and immediately reaches out to grab Harlan's arm.
You would do well, Anais, not to turn your back on your kin in their time of need. I suggest that you do return to Wolfhold, and that you tell them that you saw the hairkin headed north.
She pauses, and she squints her eyes at Vian, and then there's a second of understanding. Her face relaxes and she nods and says, "Yes, I saw her go north, to Fort Orbrack, and beyond." She winces and turns back and says, "Now, if you'd please, madame, you can continue through this way and make your way to Vanois."
Harlan squeezes Poppy's shoulder. You know, I think it's time we got your new cloak anyways. Takes the cloak. You can get this sufficiently bloody, can't you? You can do that for us, Anais, was it?
"Yes, monsieur, I can. And what would you like us to do with this bloody cloak?"
Hurricane was heading through. Didn't even know who she was. Got caught in an ambush.
Consider it done.
Vian smiles at Harlan, and this is not the flirtatious, warm, or tender smile that you have seen from her before. This is wicked. She approves of what you've just chosen.
Do you have a spare cloak for the girl? Miss Anais, do you have a spare cloak for the girl?
She looks at Harlan and scowls. The contempt for the human race is apparent in this one beastkin woman's face as she grits her teeth and she undoes her brooch. The bearkin next to her takes it and helps her. It's this nice beige-colored, light brown cloak made of wool, and the bearkin throws it at Poppy.
With shaking hands, she grabs it and just kind of stares at it.
Then we are understood.
We Understood. Now, if you would, madame, I believe you should get going in your haste, should you not?
But of course. A pleasure.
And the three of you, in incredulity, make your way through the night, through the forest, and on your way to the lovely, dank, dirty, crime-ridden city of Vanois. The camera quickly cuts to one of the beastkin next to Anais. She suddenly clutches her chest and starts convulsing. She drops to her knees, everyone around her stunned and staring wide-eyed. She unbuttons her blouse, opens it up, and looks down at her chest. You can see a red spot starting to grow bigger and bigger and bigger as she collapses onto her back, convulsing, and then stops moving. From her bare chest, a little sewing needle pops out from inside of her, and it pokes, and it pokes, and it pokes, and it pokes until eventually you see a tiny figure stretching the skin, trying to rip it apart to get out, and he comes out of her chest, coated in blood. All right, that's the first one. Who's up for the rest? And there's just a stunned silence as he looks at Anais and says, "Oh, I made an oopsie, didn't I?" He just like hops out. He sheaths his sword and he's like, I bid you adieu. Touches himself on the chest and he says, "Sploosh," and he casts invisibility.
Wait a minute. Where is Thomas?
And that's where we end our episode.
Yay!
Yeah. Shoot.
As we walk away, can Poppy please just say to Vivienne, your magician skills are really good. I mean, you really convinced them that you were a beastkin. That's insane. I mean, wow. Fade to black.
Yeah, I mean, listen, just I'm sure y'all have a lot to say. Why don't you?
I would like to start by saying, how dare you curse us with the cutest little companion? I want to keep him forever. Oh my god. Also,
Thomas.
okay, peek behind the curtain. How good was Tom, really? How good was he? Just 2 level 2 spells on black, so I know he's probably rocking some goodies in his little bag, huh?
Listeners who can't see, I'm doing a little like IDK dance.
Like,
He
he said he was an adventurer. Like, he wasn't lying. Like, you asked if he was lying, and you all rolled super good, and I told you the truth.
Yeah.
Dude's not lying. He's an adventurer. He's been on a lot of
3 months. In 3 months. He's done a lot in 3 months. That's
Why was he so small?
Okay. It's so funny. I have like a paragraph here ready to go. And this is okay. A note to any aspiring, or not aspiring, but a note to any aspiring and also current DMs. Like, this is why you let your players just like do whatever they want, because I had a reason prepared for him to give a little soliloquy about why is he so small, and no one ever asked.
We were trying to be polite.
God, Karen, you can't just ask why they're small.
it just felt so rude.
Like,
And I was like, that's just so funny. Oh my God. I was dying. I was like, oh my God, they're legitimately not going to ask why he's so small. And that's so much funnier than what I had planned.
Everyone's just like, it's so rude.
I love it. I love it. If you want to know, I would have told you. I would have told you had you not really liked him so much. You don't know. You should have asked. You don't
Please.
know. I will say.